Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
All of our guests today, including Thomas Drance, brought to you by our friends at Pastime Sports and Games. Jets have acquired Sean Monahan. Kings have fired Todd McClellan. NHL is going back to the Olympics. And, of course, yesterday we find out that the Canucks, actually it wasn't yesterday, it was late Wednesday evening, we find out the Canucks acquired Elias Lindholm. Here to talk about all that, or at least some of it, and more, from The Athletic, Thomas Drance. How are you, sir?
Doing well, gentlemen. How are you?
Very well. Are you a fan of the Canucks acquisition of Elias Lindholm?
I mean, I think it's a really sharp acquisition. I think it's doubly sharp if it causes, the Central Division leader to make a response move that I'm not sure fits necessarily all that well with what they need. So that there's an added plus that we couldn't factor into our analysis yesterday. In terms of the fit for Vancouver, that's what I really like about this, right? You've got a right-handed centerman. The Canucks didn't have a right-handed centerman with a face-off winning clip over 40%. Now they do. Elias Lindholm becomes immediately Vancouver's best penalty-killing forward. And that's still, an area where the Canucks are average, as opposed to an area where the Canucks are killing it, even with everything that's gone well for them this season. I like the fact that, you can see him slot into the bumper on the power play with Brock Besser moving to the net front and sort of giving you some size down low, which I know has been a preoccupation of Rick Tocchet's while he's run the power play this year. So, you put it all together, and I think there's a case to be made that Lindholm adds marginal value in just about every game state, and then has the upside to contribute more in the event that he can find some chemistry, some real offensive chemistry with a player like Elias Pettersson, who I know the Canucks expect him to begin playing with when they practice in Raleigh on Sunday.
Thomas, what goes through your mind when you see Elias Lindholm's point totals, when you see his stats? 9 goals, 23 assists in 49 games, and this is somebody who had produced more offensively before that with some pretty good lines.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, that's the key, right? Like, there's a sort of type of top-line player that is a top-line player but isn't necessarily a guy who drives offense, right? In Lindholm's case, his neutral zone impact is good. He can help you transition the puck. He's super reliable defensively, but he's most productive offensively when he has to play away from the puck, when he's just, work hard to find quiet ice and then use your quick release, ideally playing off of an excellent playmaker. Well, he played with 2 of them in Matthew Tkachuk and Johnny Gaudreau when he scored 40 goals. The Flames don't really have a player that matches that description at the moment, and so he struggled. This isn't a guy who I think you can count on to put them in a top-of-the-lineup role and drive offense by themselves, but that's okay. The Canucks don't need that, right? In fact, the Canucks have a variety of high-quality playmakers, one on each line in their top 9, whether it's JT Miller, Elias Pettersson, or Connor Garland, all of whom I think Lindholm could be a really good fit with. I actually like when a team brings in a player who profiles like Lindholm does offensively. Like, sometimes you'll see teams bring in the big marquee name at the trade deadline. Think about the New York Rangers last year. But the thing with some of those players is they're puck dominant. They need the puck. And so while it looks fun on paper to put 3 elite players together, sometimes there's not enough pucks to go around. There's only one. And a player like Lindholm, I think, can slot in and do his subtle things perhaps a little bit more easily than a player who's, almost a little more Garland-like a little more puck dominant in terms of the way they go about manufacturing offense for their teams.
Thomas, the Canucks did not have the assets to get both Lindholm and Tanev. Tanev was discussed this week in the Lindholm talks. The feeling is the Canucks feel the Flames think they can get a first from somewhere down the road. But anyways, that's a different story. Would you still go after Chris Tanev?
Sure. It's an interesting one, Rick, right? Because the Canucks definitely did have the assets to get Tanev in this deal, but there was a material disagreement over the price, right? It's like a poker game. right? The Calgary Flames are convinced that they can get a first for Tanev. They may be right. I don't know if the Canucks are buying that, though, right? I think the Canucks are called their bluff a little bit, and there ended up being a material disagreement on the valuation of that particular player as a rental. No question, the Canucks still really like Chris Tanev. Would love to add a person like that to their locker room in addition to some defensive help, ideally a right-handed guy. Are they going to still be motivated to upgrade their blue line? I think they're going to be watching closely. I mean, one thing I'd say is, having made this early splash, I'd be somewhat surprised, although, we take a big risk suggesting that a Rutherford team won't continue to be active. But I'd be somewhat surprised to see like another move in short order. I'd expect to see the team let the dust settle a bit, see how Lindholm fits in, see how the team plays. But I certainly would think Patrick Allvin, Jim Rutherford, and their hockey operations lieutenants are going to be watching the play of their blue line very closely from here to March 8th in determining whether or not they still want to add more heft or more speed or a right-handed shooter to that mix.
Yeah, Thomas, I still think they're going to add a defenseman, but we'll see if it's a depth or a little bit higher up in the lineup. Okay, All-Star Weekend. If somebody would have told you in the summer the Canucks would have six All-Stars, you would have said, nah, that's not happening. This is a pretty good weekend for the franchise, and then you throw in the coach, that's 7. It's all Vancouver and Toronto this weekend, Thomas.
Yeah, if someone had said Elias Lindholm would be representing the Canucks at the All-Star game, I definitely would have been shocked in the summer. It's a great story. These gentlemen all deserve to be there. No question about it, in my mind. This team's played at a remarkable level. The top of their lineup has been on fuego. You've got a guy who already has 30 goals on the season. You've got 2 guys in the top 10 in NHL scoring. You've got the Norris favorite by a fair margin, separating from the pack according to the betting futures markets. You've got Demko playing at a Vezina level, and you've got the new guy from Calgary. So pretty incredible stuff. A testament, I think, to how well this team has performed. And I think what Canucks brass would tell you too, right, is there's this funny thing in hockey where if you stop cheating for offense and play a team system, which we've seen this group do, right? It's not just that they're all at the All-Star game. It's the way you see them work in games. It's the consistency we've seen over the course of the season. Their ability to rise to various challenges, right? It's the buy-in of this group. And I think what Canucks brass would tell you is it's funny because when you buy into a team system the way that this group has under Rick Tocchet, who's also there, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes your offensive production also goes up, right? And it's counterintuitive, but when you stop doing some of the cheating stuff, some of the wrong side of the puck, some of the leaning a little too heavily toward offense stuff that we saw this group do with some regularity in the past, and certainly under Boudreau, that can actually mute how effective you are individually. I think that's partly what we're seeing too. Like, this isn't just reflective of the fact that all of these individual players deserve this, right, for their contributions. It reflects the fact that the team has won, right? That was the next level that this group needed to get to. Was without team success, they could only be rated so highly by, the general public, by hockey fans in general. Now that the team is first in the NHL, you're seeing them get more of their due.
And Thomas, very quickly, we asked Jim Rutherford the same question yesterday, but the difference between Andrei Kuzmenko last season, 39 goals, and this season on his way to another team.
27% shooting clip last season, 12.9 this year. I mean, I don't see a lot of other differences. It's just there was a lot of things that went well for him last year, and there were too many things that didn't this year. From a finishing luck perspective, from a usage perspective. And, I don't know that with his speed profile, with his attention to defensive details, with his overall awareness of the two-way game, I don't know, and I don't think the Canucks know whether or not he can contribute in a winning environment, right? And I think their increasing frustration on that kind of led us here. But fundamentally, this was a regression candidate. It was an obvious regression candidate, and that's what happened. The Canucks were able to get out of an extension that I think was a mistake scot-free. Credit to them.
Beautiful. Thomas, thanks for this. Your shooting percentage regarding these Friday hits, off the charts.
And when's your – hey, hold it a second. When's your regression coming?
Oh, it happened this year. What do you mean?
No, Donnie
I
said.
regressed big time.
No, Donnie said your hits on our show. Are,
Oh, I know. But
Yeah.
When's your regression coming?
See, I think of it as like prediction regression. Like last year, I was on such a predictions heater that I was like, oh man, I'm going to cool off at some point. And then this year, coming into the season, I was like, yeah, the Canucks might be a fringe playoff team. And instead, they're a contender. So that was a big miss. That's my regression. It happens.
Yeah. I think you and I were the guys calling for a rebuild, and we've both heard about it. Thanks for this, Thomas. Next week.
I want to hear more about my Kuzmenko call, Rick. That's what I want to hear more about.
I don't have the time, but I can fight back with you on that. A lot of your stuff is the easy stuff that you can say, but there's more behind.
The easy stuff.
Okay.
As opposed to you dunking on me constantly about my Kuzmenko.
Okay, so he wasn't gonna shoot at a 27% clip. My goodness, how hard did you have to find that information? Like, give me a break, Thomas.
You were killing me. The bald guy with his Kuzmenko tags. You were killing me.
No, it's him and Tocchet. Him and Tocchet, that's the reason. He didn't play the way Tocchet wanted him to.
That's the only reason.
Take off on your weekend.
You were killing me, bud. You were killing me.
It's Friday. You got one foot out the door. Later.
Bye.
Okay.